You are now tuned in to the newest Bills Mafia production, Fanbase Sports. Join Jarek Hall and Kari Demos as they take you around the world of sports. Every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Only on the official network of the original Bills Mafia.
Sports World. It's your boy, Jarek Hall, aka Jan Sports, back here again with another live stream. We are back here again because today it's Squish the Fish. I can't even say the words right, but Squish the Fish week. For those who don't know, where the Buffalo Bills are playing the Miami Dolphins. If you're watching from Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, whatever sort of wherever you get your podcast from, you guys know what time it is, guys. This is the week that we've all been dying for. Josh Allen versus Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill versus Gabriel Davis and Stephon Diggs. Guys, it is going to be a lit day in Miami. Bills fans are already, once again, outselling as far as ticket prices. They're going to be more Bills fans than Dolphins fans. Classic Miami. But, guys, we got a full-packed show today. It's just me, unfortunately, today. My co-host, Kari Demos, couldn't be here today. However, we're going to recap college football because yesterday was lit. I know a lot of college football fans want to discuss about that, so we're going to discuss college football recaps. We're going to go over kind of my top 10 rankings, but we're also going to talk about some more pregame shows, some more fantasy talk right before we get into kickoff. But for those who don't know, again, my name is Jarek Hall. Welcome to Buffalo Fanbase. Usually for us, we would run on Tuesdays around 7 o'clock, but we decided to kind of switch it up. So we're going to be doing Sundays for pregame, 11 o'clock all the way to 12:30. If we do switch it up, definitely follow us on Twitter. You can follow Buffalo Fanbase right on Twitter. Follow me. You can also follow me on Twitter also for live updates at Jant716. So you can also do that as well. And then again, also too, if you guys want to follow me on my personal YouTube channel, Jant Sports, you guys absolutely can do that if you guys want more Bills content or wherever you want to try to do. Also, shout out to the Buffalo Fanbase store where again, tons of content creators that have their own merchandise. So you guys can go to buffalofanbase.com. Make sure to do that. Check out the website, get the merch, support the movement. We definitely gradually appreciate it. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hop straight into this because I think the one thing that I've been dying to talk about for a long time is college football. And again, I got my boy Jordan Davis. He's in here. Let me tell you something, Doug. We got to recap because there was a lot of games I thought last night, not just last night, but throughout the noontime, the afternoon, that you had to be scratching your head. You had to be scratching your head a little bit, and you're going to be like, this team did not look good as advertised, right? This team did not look really, really good as advertised. One of these circumstances I thought was Georgia a little bit, right? I thought Georgia, for the most part, I don't think they got exposed. I think, Jordan, you can definitely attest to this. Georgia did not get exposed, but they were not immortal, right? Georgia has chinks to the armor too, just like everybody else does. And even though Georgia had an incredible 3 weeks, they went up against the Kent State squadron that had no fear. They played Washington the first week, played them very tough. They played Oklahoma in the second week, played them very tough. Now here they go against their third Power 5 team, a MAC school, by the way, and they played Georgia. They were intimidated by Athens. They were intimidated by the size. They were intimidated by they went in there and they played Georgia really, really tough. And I feel like we were pretty much in an instance where Kent State weren't the better team because they did everything in their power to beat Georgia. It's just that Georgia was just too much. But for Georgia to win that game by 17 points, I think kind of really shows us that Georgia is not, they're not immortal. They have chinks in the armor just like everyone else does, right? A lot of people criticize Alabama for winning that game by 1 point to Texas. And Texas, again, this is coming from an Alabama fan, folks. Texas should have won that game. But again, just like how we saw last week, Oklahoma, who was a top 10 squadron, they lost to Kansas State in Norman. You saw USC late night on Pac-12 Network, which I don't know why it's on the Pac-12 Network. I don't know why that wasn't a nationally televised game. But on Pac-12 Network, Oregon State almost won against USC. Oregon State was unranked. USC was talked about this saying, hey, listen, we got a top 5 quarterback in Caleb Williams. We have an offensive genius in Lincoln Riley. We have the most talent out of anybody in the Pac-12. We should be blowing everybody out. And for them to struggle on the road to Oregon State really should tell you all you need to know, right? A lot of teams, for the most part, guys, that we thought that were great struggled. Kentucky struggled with Northern Illinois. That's a top 10 squadron. Arkansas got exposed by Texas A&M, and Texas A&M, we all know, is not really a great football program. Miami lost to Middle Tennessee State. What is up with the Middle Tennessees of the world? But Miami lost to Middle Tennessee State, and again, they didn't just lose by a fluke; they got dominated. So, guys, a lot of teams got exposed. Texas lost to Texas Tech. I forgot about that. Texas lost to Texas Tech. A lot of teams were either in tough fights or they simply lost. And this is week 4 of college football. This is what we're pretty much talking about, ladies and gentlemen. When the first 3 weeks, it can be very, very deceiving. First 3 weeks can be extremely deceiving because when you have teams like Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State in the world, and they're playing Blue Mountain State University, or they're playing they're playing what was that college? ICDC college, of course you're gonna dominate. And granted, these colleges, there's a reason why they're playing these colleges, so that because a lot of these colleges, they don't have what it takes to compete with Power 5 with Power 5 schools. It is extremely hard to run a conference. So for me personally, it's extremely understandable why it's understandable why these schools are playing the Appalachian states of the world, the Troys, the Marshalls, right? Even though those Sun Belt schools are having a lot of success, but there's a reason why that's happening, right? The Kent States of the world, they need the money to keep up with athletic facilities, science, sports science centers, all that type of stuff, right? They need that stuff to keep up with the other Power 5s. Otherwise, they're going to get ran out of town. But man, oh man, oh man. Once you get out that funk and you get to week 4, it is a different ball game, ladies and gentlemen, because now all of a sudden Power 5 schools are playing Power 5 schools. We now have conference competition, and all of a sudden you really get to see who is legitimate, who are teams that are good, or maybe even great, but they need things to work on. I think Alabama's case, it was the game against Texas. I think for Georgia's case, it was against Kent State. I think for Ohio State, I think now it's Notre Dame, because Notre Dame lost a couple games. They lost to Ohio State and they lost to Marshall. So Notre Dame clearly isn't the top 10 school that everyone kind of thought they were. So a lot of these and even Clemson in a game of the year type of a game almost lost to Wake Forest. Now Wake Forest is a decent team. They got they have a top quarterback in Sam Hartman. But Clemson's defense, well, a lot of people revered as a elite defense, got absolutely just crapped on by the Wake Forest offense. They put up over 500 yards of total offense. So, ladies and gentlemen, every single team, even in the top 25, has had a struggle. And I actually like that because that creates diversity. That creates diversity all throughout. And I'm extremely excited for this. I think week 5 and beyond now we're getting into college football. Now we're getting into the sport that we love so dearly, instead of just having these games where the Alabamas of the world and a lot of these other Power 5 conferences, they're playing the ICDCs of the world. Now we have in-state competition. We have in-state competition. We have conference competition. It's going to get real now, and we're really going to find out who is legitimate and who are teams that were just extremely deceptive, right? The rankings did this. And by the way, college football rankings, the first playoff edition rankings are on the way. So I'm extremely excited. College football now officially began yesterday, and man, I'm excited. But now, kind of capping it off, we're now going to talk some Bills, because I feel like that's what I'm doing. Shout out to P Productions. Appreciate you guys for stopping by the live stream. Shout out to you guys. We're gonna read some comments. The note, Doug girl, what's up? What's going on, brother? What's going on? Let's squish the fish. Absolutely, let's squish the fish. But let's talk about the Bills real quick. And then, like I said, whatever comments you want to try to do, we'll try to answer some of your questions. But The Miami Dolphins, guys, this is going to be a tough game. Very, very tough game for the Buffalo Bills. They lose, I think, around 6 NFL starters. Jordan Phillips is going to be out. Jordan Poyer ruled out. We all know what happened with Micah Hyde. Micah Hyde, pretty much had a season-ending injury, and we wish him nothing, a speedy recovery. But man, oh man, it's tough losing 2 All-Pro safeties, especially in this game against Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Mike Gesicki. It's going to be a very, very tough thing. We all know Tre'Davious White, he's going to be out for another week or 2. So now in place, you now have to start Kiara Elam, Christian, Dane Jackson's out with a scary injury. Oh boy, it's going to be very, very tough. Very, 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 very tough. I think the question is, guys, can this defensive line really step up? I think this defensive line has to step up for this game, ladies and gentlemen, because again, for years, even when Sean McDermott through his first stint, this team had to rely on the secondary, right? It was the Jordan Poyers, the Micah Hydes, a rookie Tre'Davious White. Those were the guys that had to step up for Buffalo, and they did do that. And they've done it really for what, 4 to 5 seasons, 4 to 5 years. But now the defensive line has to step up, right? The secondary, it was a key component where the defensive line, for the most part, really they made their money based off what the secondary was doing of shutting everybody down. Now that defensive line has to be the moneymaker, right? It has to be the one to create pressure on Tua, because if they don't do that, we've seen that with a lot of those short intermediate throws, the screen plays, a lot of those really, really good play designs that McDaniels has really done for the Miami Dolphins, the RPOs, what Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle can do on the slants. Those are really home run threats, not just your ability to stretch the field vertically, but what they can do if they catch a 3-yard drag or a potential override or again an inside slant. They can take that thing all the way to the house. So this defensive line has got to put pressure on Tua Tagovailoa, right? The Von Millers, Tim Settle, he's got cleared. He's going to be playing tonight. There's going to have to be other players stepping up for this defensive line because, again, they have to do it. The Epinessas, the Boogie Bashams, the Gregory Rousseaus. So, by the way, this is a homecoming game. Being a former Hurricanes player, they have to do that today. They really, really have to do that. It's going to be very interesting to see what Leslie Frazier really does with this defense, of how they're going to scheme up, how they can slow down Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, because those are 2 players that even with this defense, we all know they're not going to be stopped. They're going to get their yards. They're going to get it. We don't have a shutdown player right now on the starting depth chart that can really shut down Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. But the question is how can you limit them as best as you can? That's the best possible way for Buffalo to win this game. What can you do to limit their ability to stretch the field? What can you do to limit their ability that on 3rd and 12 or 3rd and long situations? What can you do to limit them to move the chains? What can you do? Because the longer Miami's on that field, the more confident Tua gets. We've seen last week in that Baltimore game, that's when Tua is on his A game. They gained a lot of confidence. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, it seemed like the chemistry was a little bit there. And the offensive line started to block a little bit better. They started to run the football a little bit more because the offense was opened up. That Dolphins offense moved as a collective unit, and that's something that Buffalo and Leslie Frazier has to do. What can they do to really cut that out? Because otherwise, it's going to be a long, long day for that Buffalo defense. Now, for this offense, this is going to have to be a shootout. They have to play like this game has to be a shootout, because we've seen, like Baltimore, being up by 21 points. If they let up for a second, if they give Miami any sort of momentum, we've seen that this offense that gives Miami's offense just enough time in order for them to do what they have to do. This is going to be a game that, again, and Baltimore is in a very similar situation, guys. Marlon Humphrey didn't play. Marcus Peters didn't play in that game last week. They missed some of their best secondary players as well. So again, Miami has had experience of really just pouncing on prey. And I feel like for us, we have to do our best to limit those opportunities. This offense has to do the best that they possibly can to try to extend drives, waste time on the clock. And who knows, could that mean Buffalo running the football, right? A lot of question marks on Buffalo's running game has been that they can't really run the football. They can. If you look at Devin Singletary right now, he's averaging close to 5 yards a carry. James Cook, we saw him get going a little bit against Tennessee. Zach Moss is pretty much a short yardage back to goal line back, but we all know he has the ability to kind of do what he has to do. Buffalo has that ability. Matter of fact, I think their offensive line has definitely improved in that run department. That's why you get guys like a Roger Saffold, who was one of the best, not really one of the best pass blockers, but one of the best run blockers in the National Football League. And you love his physicality even at the age of 35 or 36, because you want that offensive line to extend drives, to push drives. And I feel like if you can do that, that could be something. If you can do that, that could, again, that opens up a lot for this offense. So I think for this game, I don't think if you're Buffalo, you want to try to score as quickly as possible. I think if you're Buffalo, you want to try to extend the drives, tire out this Dolphins defense, have this offense open up to you. But for the most important thing, if you're Buffalo, you have to be on your P's and Q's this game, because if you're not, again, this is a game that might we can take advantage of. This is a scary game for Buffalo. You're playing in Miami, 100 degrees on the field, extremely humid. These are always tough games for Buffalo. But, again, this is going to be a very, very tough game if you're the Buffalo Bills. Very, very tough game. But let me go ahead, read the comments, and see what's going on with you guys. Yeah, I completely agree, man. Listen, Michigan was not on their A game. Michigan just was not on their A game. Again, that's another team that struggled. They struggled against Maryland. And again, Talia Tagovailoa, he didn't really have a strong game. Like, Talia didn't have a strong game at all. That was just a game that J.J. McCarthy made a lot of mistakes. Again, redshirt freshman, first-year starter. He made a lot of mistakes. Blake Corum was the biggest reason why they won that game. He was the biggest reason why they won that game. It was him. It was that offensive line. And again, they have to do what's best in order for them to win. And again, you saw Michigan, who a lot of people crown as being a top two, even above Alabama's, of being a top three, top four squadron. Now all of a sudden you're seeing the Michigan Wolverines. All of a sudden you're seeing them they're not in that light. All of a sudden now they're just not in that same light now. And you saw that they had jukes in the army themselves. So again, that's why I love week 4. I love week 4 and 5 of college football, because now all of a sudden teams are just getting exposed. I wouldn't say the word exposed, but all of a sudden you're seeing that these teams are not as good as we kind of think they are. Listen, bro. Listen, man. I'll say this about some of the college football rankings, because I'll say this. Alabama should move up a little bit. I know that Alabama's number 3 because of the performance against Texas. But, bro, I think you can agree with me on this. I think, Fly, you can agree with me on this. Yesterday really showed that a lot of teams are kind of in that same position as Alabama. A lot of teams are in that same position as Alabama. Again, criticism rightfully deserved that they struggled against Texas. But at the same time, Georgia struggled against Kent State, or USC struggled. I mean, USC had a struggle win against Oregon State. I mean, really the best win I thought of the week was Tennessee's win against Florida, because Tennessee hasn't beaten Florida in over 16 years. They did it pretty convincingly. And again, Billy Napier kind of messed up Florida's chances by going for that 2-point conversion. However, Tennessee's got a really good win against Pittsburgh, and they have a top win against Florida. I feel like they had the best win out of all the teams there, me personally. Again, Penn State, I don't think Penn State, they're probably going to move up as a top 10 squadron. Don't think they're as good as everyone's kind of thinking they are right now. But a lot of teams, especially in that top 10, Kentucky struggled with Northern Illinois. I think a lot of teams got exposed. It's crazy. But when you actually take a look at the official rankings, again, Georgia's number 1, that moved up to number 2. Ohio State's number 3. Michigan's number 4. Clemson's number 5. Oklahoma's number. How the hell? Again, this is Oklahoma's going to move down. We all know this, but Oklahoma's going to move down. I think USC should move down. Kentucky should move down. Oklahoma State, I think, should move up a little bit longer. I think a lot of people are still writing on that first game where I think Central Michigan scored 44 points. We all know a lot of those points, 28 of those points were in garbage time. Arkansas definitely should move down. Tennessee should definitely move up. NC State, should they move up? Again, they did struggle with Eastern Carolina, but again, a lot of teams struggled. Eastern Carolina is a pretty solid football squadron. Maybe they should move up. Utah, I don't think so. How about teams like Syracuse, though? Like Syracuse and Florida State. Like we've kind of been holding off those teams for a while now. Like we've been holding off those teams for a while now. Maybe Syracuse and Florida State should be top 25 squadron. I mean, Florida, like I said, they're beating bad teams. They're 4-0, for the most part. They beat LSU, who I think LSU's 3-1 at this point. They beat Mississippi State, who I think is pretty underrated. I think we should give credit to Florida State and Syracuse, guys. They're 4-0 as well. I think we need to put some respect on ACC squadrons, honestly. Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, Moody. I'm thinking the same thing. I think we need to take long drives. I think we have no choice. Chew the clock out, extend the drives, and I think if we can do that, I think we'll be fine. Honestly, I think that will be fine. What's going on, DSA1? What's going on, brother? How you doing, man? Yeah, Jordan. Tennessee, I think that they're rightfully deserving so. And again, their offense is really good. But I think we all expect that, right? I think we all expected that Tennessee's offense was going to be really good, right? Hendon Hooker looks solid. He made some mistakes here and there. Hendon Hooker looks solid. Like Brew McCoy, the receivers, Cedric Tillman, Brew McCoy look really good as a receiving duo. This offensive line looked pretty good too. I think a lot of people, underestimate their offensive line, but they were pretty solid. Their defense, questionable as all hell, right? And that's something that's something that we've kind of been talking about the last 4 weeks. But let's give credit. Let's give credit to what Tennessee and Josh Hubel and Hendon Hooker has been doing. I mean, guys, we got to give credit where credit is due. I mean, seriously, I think for the most part, Tennessee, I think they are much deserving of being a top 10 squadron, honestly. But again, if Tennessee, because they were 11th ranked, I would move them up, honestly, top 8, honestly. Just looking at the performances I saw from last week, just looking at those sort of performances, I would honestly kind of just move them up, honestly. I think that's what I would probably do for that. But just based on what I saw, USC should have lost that game to Oregon State. Kentucky struggled with Northern Illinois. It's like Oklahoma lost to Kansas State, and it was pretty. And again, it was very convincing. It wasn't a fluke win. That was a very convincing win. A lot of teams are just not as good as we kind of think they are. But the teams that we criticize, the Ohio States, the Alabamas of the world, those are teams that are now getting better. They're now starting to, they're starting to kind of find their rhythm a little bit. So again, it's interesting. Yeah, I think that's going to be a tough test. I think a lot of people are not really talking about that game. Tennessee against LSU, that's going to be a big game. That's going to be a very, very big game, honestly. LSU, they're starting to find the rhythm a little bit. Like I said, Harold Perkins was a monster in that Mississippi State game. I think ever since that game, they're starting to kind of find the rhythm. They're starting to gain some confidence. LSU's still extremely talented. Oh, yeah, Roll Tide Roll, John. Roll Tide Roll as well, brother. Roll Tide Roll. Alabama put it on a Vandy, man. They put it on. And here's the thing about this. That's not a bad Vandy team. Now, of course, it's Vanderbilt. It's their standards. That's not a bad Vanderbilt team at all, though. Like, when you really take a look at it, it's just not a bad Vanderbilt team. They have a pretty decent freshman quarterback. They're 3-1. They put up 25 points on Wake Forest. It's just, again, Vanderbilt, are they going to win 8-9 games? No. Vanderbilt's going to win around 6 or 7 games. But to their standards, that's pretty solid. So I think we need to give a lot more credit to Vanderbilt. But Alabama holding that team that hasn't scored, that's scoring pretty much at least 20-something points a game, I think we need to give a lot more credit to Vanderbilt and for what they've been able to do. But Alabama put up 55 points and only allowing 3 points was really, really solid. I think you're starting to see this team really start to come together. So some other games, I'm really interested of seeing what the Cowboys can do, right? I'm very interested of seeing of what they could potentially do for the most part. Again, Cooper Rush against the Giants. I mean, the Cowboys Giants we'll see what Cooper Rush can do. I mean, again, from a fantasy standpoint, I want Noah Brown to do well. But we'll see. We'll see, honestly. I think that, again, the Cowboys, you know how the Cowboys are. They play up to their competition, but all of a sudden when they have teams that they just go against that are just kind of that they know from a talent perspective that they're better in, we all know the Cowboys, they always find ways to fold. So that is a game that I'm honestly kind of looking forward to right there. Also looking forward to the Ravens Patriots game. Again, Mac Jones hasn't had the best game in the world. Lamar Jackson, Baltimore, how will they rebound from losing a game that they're up by 21 points? Again, how are we going to see Baltimore kind of come out? I think that's a question right there. Eagles Commanders, that's a divisional game. Looking forward to that one. Jalen Hurts has been on fire, by the way. Roll for that. Again, Commanders, that's going to be a very interesting game. Carson Wentz, the Commanders are 0-2 right now. They need a win. And again, this would be a big divisional, not just a big game for them as far as the rebound. This would be a big divisional win because the NFC East, that's what that matters right there. So looking forward to that one. Rams Cardinals, looking forward to that one as well. Divisional game for NFC West supremacy. Kyler Murray versus Matthew Stafford. That should be a really, really good game as well. And then I think the best game I think we're all kind of looking forward to is definitely the Buccaneers and definitely the Packers. Bucks Packers is a game that I think we need to look out for because Tom Brady, again, Cole Beasley, he got activated for that game, Moody. And Tom Brady's, his Mike Evans gone, Chris Godwin gone, Julio Jones, I don't think he's going to be playing in this game as well. So you're going to have to rely on the defense. You're going to have to rely on you're simply going to have to rely on practice squad players. And that's what Tom Brady's pretty much worked with his entire career, but he's 45 years of age. So again, Green Bay, I mean, Tampa Bay has kind of been a thorn on Green Bay's side for, ever since Tom Brady's kind of been there. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to that game. Yeah, Jordan, I don't think Tennessee's going to win the East, Jordan. I do think it's going to be competitive. That's the one thing that I was looking forward to last week. I think we all know Georgia's winning the East. The question is, who's going to be a competitor, right? And it's not just from a short-term perspective, but from a long-term perspective as well. Who's going to be that competitor? And I think what we found out, ladies and gentlemen, was that Tennessee can be that school. Now, again, they're not a top 10. They don't have a top 10 recruiting class. Matter of fact, Florida's in that realm. But this was a much needed win for Tennessee because it's been 16 years since they beat Florida. They have a legitimate quarterback. They got a legitimate offense. The one thing I think Georgia, can kill them. I think Georgia from an all-around team, they're just better, right? They have one of the better offenses. They still have a really good defense. Not as elite as it was last year. That's why I was trying to tell people that, again, their defense is going to be very good, but they're very, very young. They're going to have some struggles here and there, but that still is from a talent perspective, from a coaching standpoint, that still is a very, very good defense. Just from an all-around standpoint, that's the best team in college football right now. The question is for Tennessee's that can they compete? And I think that they have a chance to compete. Even though that game is going to be in Athens, that's a game that if you're a Georgia fan, you can't ignore. You simply just can't ignore. Yeah, I agree. Packs Bucks is the game to look out for. Also, 49ers Broncos. That's also another game to look out for. 49ers Broncos is another game to really look out for right there. I would not sleep on that game as well. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be coming in place for injured Trey Lance. Then, of course, you got the Russell Wilson, the Denver Broncos. They have not looked sharp at all, especially the offensive side of the ball. I'm pretty sure that Denver's going to go into this game. I still feel like Denver's going to struggle. I mean, you're going against one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. That's a game to also look out for as well. If you guys are betting, I will say this. Do not take the minus for the Cowboys-Giants game. Don't do that. Listen, the Giants are 2-0. The Cowboys are 1-1. We get it. The Cowboys are the favorites. But still, this is how they are. I would not take that minus I would not take that minus. And again, I'm trying to look at the spread. I would not take that minus at all. I think Buffalo, and I'm trying to look at this thing. Buffalo's a -4.5. I'm -4.5. Listen, again, they're last week they were a touchdown favorite against Tennessee. The same thing with LA. I've kind of bet on Buffalo, won a little bit of money on that. I would not be so sure about this game, honestly. I mean, there's a reason why Vegas knows what they're doing. There's a reason why Vegas got that as a -4.5. They're looking at all these injuries, even though they're still considering Buffalo a favorite because of Josh Allen and what this offense can do. That's a game to kind of look out for as well. Also, again, the -5, the Chiefs, I would still look out for that because, again, Indianapolis is kind of Indianapolis, they can run the ball extremely well. They still have a top offensive line. I still feel like Indy is still kind of finding the rhythm. I wouldn't really take that -5 against for Kansas City yet as well. So definitely kind of look out for those. Listen, Tennessee, Moody, Tennessee's got a lot of injury, brother. I mean, they got a lot of injuries. Their secondary for the most part is a weak link. Taylor Lewan, who's their best tackle, he's out for the rest of the year. Listen, Derrick Henry's got to get it going. If Derrick Henry can't run the football, Tennessee's just not a good team. So, again, it'll be very interesting to see if Tennessee can bounce back. Oh, excuse me. It'll be very interesting to see if Tennessee can bounce back. I will say this, though, Moody. If they can run the football, that's going to open up play action. That's going to open up a lot of the intermediate routes. That's going to open up the crossing routes, and that's going to open Tennessee to make plays. But so far, we've kind of seen that Tannehill, without that running game, has struggled. And that's kind of been the biggest critique of Ryan Tannehill is what can he do if Derrick Henry doesn't really have a good day? And I think so far we're kind of finding out that Ryan Tannehill just seems to, once again, just struggle. Yeah, Georgia didn't play well. Georgia simply just did not play well. I think every Georgia fan would kind of tell you that. Kent State played their ass off, and here's the thing about this. I don't think that this is as bad as a win as everyone's kind of making out to be. Now, again, Kent State's not a Power 5 program, but Kent State, look what they did in Washington. They played very, very tough against Washington. Washington's undefeated. They played very, very tough. For the most part, they played it very, very tough against Oklahoma. Just yesterday, that was a top 10 ranked school, and Oklahoma was up by a touchdown against Kent State at halftime. Kent State's not afraid to play Power 5 competition. Yes, they're 1-3. When you take a look at the record, it's not impressive. However, they played nothing but Power 5 opponents. They are not afraid to play those, and they're not afraid of anybody. And I feel like for the most part, I feel like Georgia was honestly surprised by the fact that Kent State wasn't intimidated. I feel like they were surprised by Kent State. I feel like this was a game that Georgia thought that they could just walk their way to victory, and they kind of got smacked in the mouth, and they were shocked. They were surprised by it. Now again, right? They had a muff punt. McConkey did not have his best game. Stenton Bennett threw an interception. He wasn't really as good as we thought he was in this game as well. But so I think that from Georgia just didn't play disciplined football. This could be either a good thing for Georgia as far as just kind of more of a wake-up call and getting right back on track, or maybe there's a little bit more holes than we kind of thought there were. So that's why this game is interesting. But if you really take a look at it, every single top squadron has struggled. And I feel like from a Bama fan perspective, that makes me feel better because that 1-point win against Texas is still sour. Even though, again, a win's a win, it still is very, very sour. So that's something that, it is something that we're going to definitely kind of figure out about. But I feel like for the most part, if you're Georgia, you look at the mistakes, you clean it up, you fix it, you get right back on track. Yeah. Yeah, Jordan pretty much said it. Jordan pretty much said it right here, guys. Again, missed opportunities, missed catches, missed assignments, missed blocking assignments. The tackling really wasn't the best, especially in that first half. Play calling. I felt like from a coach, no one's really talking about this. I feel like from a coaching standpoint, the play calling really wasn't the best by Todd Monken, especially on the defensive side of the ball as well. Georgia just had an off day. And it's all right. Like I said, this is college football for the most part, right? You're going to have teams that are going to have off days. Alabama had their off day against Texas. And we're still really finding our rhythm because the offensive line, we still don't really have our we still have positional battles. We still have positional battles with our secondary as well. That's still not clarified of who are going to be the rightful guys for the rest of the year. It's going to be it's honestly going to be a rotation for arguably the next at least couple 2 to 3 weeks. So I mean, guys, everybody's struggling. Everyone's struggling. And I feel like for Georgia's case, this is just a one game where you just need to watch the film, get the mistakes, and get ready for next week. Yeah, dude, that was probably, bro, Q. That was the most shocking thing I think I've seen, bro. That was freaking shocking. That was very, very shocking. 98-0 against Warner. And the funny part is, every single, like, they had 4 quarterbacks play, and all 4 quarterbacks had 4 touchdown passes. I don't listen. FCFA, they are I think they're a D2 or a really, really late FCS program. But Warner had to be D3. That had to be D3 community college. They had to be, because there's no way in hell a team's winning 98-0. You can't be that bad to lose 98-0. There's no way. I can't even do that in Madden when I'm playing in rookie mode. Incredible. Man, that was one of the most shocking games I think I've ever heard. I didn't watch the game, but still 98-0, bro. I mean, that was extreme. That was just disappointing. Extreme disappointing. But as far as everything else goes for college football, I mean, yeah, dude, like, it was shocking, right? It was shocking because honestly, for week 4, I did not think it was going to be this competitive. I thought that maybe week 5 was going to be that type of week where we're going to be competitive. Week 4 was very, very competitive. The Thursday games were Syracuse. Shout out to upstate New York. Syracuse, they won their game against Virginia. That was a very, very close tie game. That was a 22-20 battle. We've seen, again, USC struggling against Oregon State. Penn State, for the most part, they didn't really struggle, but still they had some concerns going into that game. The Auburn-Missouri game, I mean, I know you're going to attest to this, bro. That Auburn-Missouri game was horrible. It was a horrible game, but at the same time, it was exciting the last minute. The Arkansas A&M game, right? Arkansas should have won that game. A&M got away with it again, but still, that was a very, very great game, a rivalry game. Incredible. But, dude, a lot of teams struggle. Oh, yeah, Nabil, bro, I'm ready, man. I'm ready for it. Again, Buffalo, Buffalo has to extend the drives, run the football, waste time off the clock, give this defense rest. I feel like this game is personally going to be a shootout. I feel like it's going to be a shootout. But my perfect best case scenario is Buffalo can win this game probably 27-24, or who knows? Maybe we can blow them out. Who knows? But I feel like for us, we simply just have to execute. That's the best thing we have to do, right? We can't kill ourselves with penalties. We can't have the turnovers. We have to play assigned, sound football. Listen, there's nobody in this roster in our secondary, there's nobody on our starting depth chart right now in our secondary that's better than Tyreek Hill. That's better than Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. There's no one on this team that can guard Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. But if we can play assigned football, if we can play disciplined, if we can just do our job, do the best that we can do, we have a chance to win this game. But I'm telling you, the realistic chance, guys, this game is probably going to be a shootout. And I've been all week kind of been preparing for a shootout. I'm not going to lie to you. I've not been preparing for a loss. But this is going to be one of those cases that I really, really do hope that we can just play assigned football and just do the best we can. Yeah, I saw that, man. And TJ Finley is, from an upside perspective, 6'6", 260 pounds, cannon for an arm, but he just doesn't got it. He just doesn't have it, man. And you saw it at LSU. You kind of saw it here. He just doesn't really have it. He doesn't really have that spark. And he's a one-read quarterback, doesn't really go through his progressions, panics a lot in the pocket. It's time. But if you are Bryce, if you're Harsin, if you are a part of that coaching staff, part of that recruiting staff, you gotta get a quarterback. Whether if it's the transfer portal, whatever it is, you got to get a quarterback. And I can't even say the transfer portal is the best solution because you got TJ Finley for the transfer portal, you got Zach Kislada. At this point, you need to start developing your own guys, and because these transfer quarterbacks, it's just not been working out. It's not been working out. Yeah, it's just not been working out. But you guys got the win. You guys are 3-1, right? I listen. I know you guys are definitely not the best team in the world, but you guys are 3-1. I feel like that's probably, 3-1, and you should be celebrating that. Yeah. I mean, like here's the funny part, B. I have Tua. I got Tua. I got him starting, so he's my starter for fantasy. I don't got Waddle, but I'm rooting for the guys. Like, again, he being a Bama fan, I'm rooting for the guys. I'm rooting for Jalen Waddle. I'm rooting for Tua. I'm rooting for Jalen Hurts. I'm rooting for all our guys out there tonight. But at the same time, it's like one half of me wants to root for them and wants to like cheer them on. I'm gonna be cheering them on. The other half of me saying, okay, please smack the crap out of Waddle and Tua. You got to get them down, please. Not wishing injury, but just hurt him, like get him down. So that's my id, and that's the other side of me. Like that's my super ego. That's my id. Like I'm just it's coming together as one, man. But no, like I'm hoping for the best for Waddle and Tua. And honestly, like I would from a rivalry standpoint, and I'll talk about this before we get out of here. From a rivalry standpoint, this means a lot for Buffalo and for Miami because back in the 90s, I didn't grow up with the Jim Kelly, Dan Marino days. I didn't grow up with that. I grew up with J.P. Lossman. I grew up with Drew Bledsoe from an early standpoint. I grew up with Trent Edwards. I grew up with Thad Lewis. I grew up with Tyrod Taylor. And now I'm finally with Josh Allen. How can I forget Nathan Peterman, right? Nathan Peterman, Matt Barkley starting there for a little bit. Like these are the quarterbacks I kind of grew up watching. I didn't grow up with Jim Kelly. So now the fact that we actually could potentially have an actual rivalry between two quarterbacks, between two teams that despise each other, it's good for football. Like, if Oklahoma and Texas, if they both do extremely well, if they're both constantly competing for conference championships, national championships, it makes Red Rivalry that much better, right? Like rivalries are good. Rivalries are just that much better when both teams are just on it. It's just entertaining football. Like last week, I watched the Packers-Bears game. Like that Packers-Bears game was just boring. I didn't really care for it because the Packers and Bears are the Packers we all know is going to be an elite team. The Bears are mediocre. Football is, there's a reason why Sunday night keeps hosting these Bears-Packers games because it's an historic rivalry. Football is great when you have the Packers and Bears when they're both good. It just makes that rivalry that much more intense. So I'm honestly excited for this rivalry. I hope that Tua does good. I hope that Waddle does his best. I hope the Dolphins win as many games as possible, not just beat us. That's what I would just say. Just don't beat us for the most part. But it just makes the rivalry that much better. Yeah, and that's what I think had happened. I think Tua's going to get his yards. Right? I would not be surprised if Tua throws for 300 yards. But Bills defense, I think that the key is that pass rush. That pass rush has got to get home. Pass rush has got to get home to the quarterback at Tua because otherwise it's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long day. But we'll see. Von Miller, he's going to have a game. And, he's going to have the game. Greg Rousseau's going to have to step up. Epinesa, Basham, Tim Settle, a lot of these guys have to step up today because otherwise, it's going to be a long day. Yeah, yep. Like I said, yeah, you're a Georgia fan, and you see how Justin Fields, you want to see Justin Fields succeed. Now, again, he's with the Bears, and it's not Justin Fields' fault. It's their management. They don't have the weapons for Justin Fields. It's a damn shame. But yeah, like I said, every fan, for the most part, like I said, when their players leave college, you want to support them. You want to support them at the next level. Yeah. I mean, the Bill, we got to play sound football. I think that's just about it for us. If we can play sound football, I think we got this. But we got to play sound football. We got to play sound football. We got to play disciplined football. We have to just simply just execute, follow the game plan. I feel like if we can do that, we can win. We got to follow the game plan, though. Simple as that. Damar Hamlin, Jaquan Johnson, not Dane Jackson's never going to play in this game, but Christian Benford. These guys have to step it up. TR Elam, tough task guarding Tyreek Hill. Tough task. But we got to step it up. We simply just got to go out there and execute. And if we can do that, I feel like we have a chance to win. Joe Burrow doesn't have the line. Joe Burrow simply just doesn't really have the line, man. He does not have the line. It sucks for Joe, man. And the funny part is, like, you got Alex Kappa, like you signed Alex Collins to like a massive deal, and Joe Burrow is he's getting sacked more than what he did last year. So it sucks for Joe Burrow. But if you can give Joe Burrow some time, we've seen that this offense can just be extremely explosive. But who knows? Maybe very similar to a lot of these college teams just talked about. Maybe this offensive line has to peak at the right time because, again, they got 3 new starters in there. So we're just gonna have to see about that. We're just gonna have to see about that, man. But probably my final thoughts before we probably get out of here is Bills have to play assigned football. Bills got to play assigned football. We have to pass. We got to get a rush on Tua. Doesn't matter how many great receivers you have. If you can rush the quarterback, if you can get home to him, if you can cause pressure, if you can cause disruption, he's not going to throw it, right? Right. It doesn't matter how many receivers they got. If he's on the ground, if he's sacked, he's not going to go anywhere. So I would say the best thing for the Buffalo Bills, play assigned football. This pass rush has got to step up. Offensively, it can't make key mistakes. Not in this game. This is the game where you can't afford to make key mistakes. You cannot give Miami that ball back. Because the longer you give the ball back to Miami, the more and more you do that, the more and more things are just not really going to go your way. So that's kind of just something that you have to do. Follow the game plan, play assigned football. And I feel like if you can do that, you have a great chance of winning, man. Oh, yeah. And a Bill, I feel like from a contract standpoint, this game means a lot. I think this game's going to mean a lot for a lot of these players contract-wise because it's not college where second-string players are stepping in there and then all of a sudden they get benched and they kind of gain nothing for it. I mean, they gain experience, but they still have to wait the turn. I mean, imagine if Damar Hamlin, let's just say if he has like a couple interceptions, this is going to boost his stock in free agency. This is going to boost his stock from a contract standpoint as far as him getting money. So from an incentive standpoint, this means a lot for these players. Now, I'm not saying that these players are simply going to be playing here for money, even though, again, you're playing on contracts. However, it's a part of it. I mean, we can't lie here, guys. It's a part of it, right? Money and like the incentives, money, it's a big involvement for why players are playing right now in the NFL. Otherwise, they'll just stay in college for as long as they possibly could. So this is going to mean a lot for these players money-wise if they can step up and have huge days. But not just that, but from a depth standpoint, this means a lot because, again, this would show that if Buffalo secondary can do good against Miami, this just shows how deep we are. And typically we are really, really loaded deep with players. They just really never really had the opportunity. But we've seen in the past where players have gone down, players have stepped up and they've done really well. This is not Quan Johnson's first start. He stepped in for Micah Hyde when he was hurt before, and he did fairly well. Now, again, he wasn't elite. He wasn't this ball hawk safety that Micah Hyde was, but he still did his job. And I feel like that's what we have to do. We know we're going to give up yards. We know we're going to give up opportunities. But the one thing I think we have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is that we have to really step up in certain situations. We have to step up, play assigned football, do our job, right? That's what I got told for most when I played football. Do your job. If you can do your job and simply play assigned sound football, and again, I know I keep reiterating this. I know I keep saying this, but this is very freaking important because if you don't do this, Waddle and Hill are players that can make you pay. And that is something that we have to do. We saw Baltimore, when their backup players got in the game, when they were starting this game, they simply did not play a sound football. They weren't consistent for all 4 quarters. And you saw that Miami put up 4 quarters in 1 quarter. Like they put up 28 points in 1 quarter. You saw what they can do. And that's what we have to do. That's what Baltimore did not do last week. They put pressure on Tua in the first half. The second half came, they couldn't put the pressure. So that's what we have to do. We have to send pressure. We can't be afraid. We all know, again, it's gonna be a lot of underneath throws, a lot of inside slants, a lot of drag, a lot of hitches. It's going to be a lot of short intermediate throws, RPO offense-based offenses. Buffalo has to limit that. They cannot. This is the one thing that they can't do, ladies and gentlemen. They can't be afraid. Jordan, I think you can agree with this. Tua can throw it all over the place. Tua is arguably one of the best quarterbacks when it comes to short and intermediate routes. He is one of the best quarterbacks in football at that. However, if you can put the pressure at Tua, he becomes a different quarterback. And I feel like we got to do that. That's what we have to do to kind of limit that. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna get out of here, guys. Gonna get ready, gonna get prepared for this game. But I appreciate everyone for stopping by. Again, follow me on YouTube, Gent Sports. If you guys want to check out my halftime shows, I'm gonna be doing a little halftime report video, kind of recap, and doing a post game for Buffalo. So definitely make sure to follow me on that. Also, guys, Buffalo fan base, make sure to like the videos, subscribe to their channel. Buffalo fan base, for the most part, has a lot of phenomenal, great content creators, a lot of great ideas. And also, again, they also represent Buffalo Fanatics. I'm saying not Buffalo Fanatics. They also represent, represent the Fanatic fan base. They represent, for the most part, they represent the Bills Mafia. So shout out to them as well. Also, merch. Make sure to go to buffalofanbase.com. These guys have a lot of great merch. I know I'm about to order myself some merch from there, so make sure to stop by and do that. And yeah, guys, appreciate everyone for stopping by. So anyway, guys, this is Gents Sports, aka Gent 716. I appreciate everyone so much for stopping by. Again, catches every pregame 11 o'clock. I know we started a little late, but 11 o'clock to 12:30. Catches live on the pregames. And yeah, we're gonna be out of here. So yeah, Gent Sports, aka Gent 716. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
You are now tuned in to the newest Bills Mafia production, Fanbase Sports. Join Jarek Hall and Kari Demos as they take you around the world of sports every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on the official network of the original Bills Mafia.